First of all, The Outsiders is my favorite movie of all time, my favorite book of all time, the only one I've ever read more than once. The thing that I love the most about it is the guys in the movie, the characters are so tough, but there's also so much vulnerability that you don't see a lot of times. So there's a lot of, it shows different sides of the characters. You touched on it a little bit about Patrick Swayze, but it seems like this would have been an amazing bonding experience for all of you characters. So I'm curious, like, obviously you guys are still good friends, but are there any of the other actors that you have been your lifelong friends with?
Well, I will start off with the fact that Darren was my best man at my wedding. Twice. We're still extremely close. That doesn't always happen. But there was something about this core group, and Darren touched on it. He said, this movie, when you watch it, he sees a group of young men, young boys taking care of each other. That's how we were in real life as well. The cast took care of each other. Here's a story for you, and Darren can reiterate a little bit, but we showed up about a month early for rehearsals. And Francis did something that was unheard of. We shot the entire film on videotape before we ever rolled actual film footage. And he cut that together and he presented it to us, and we watched it. It was a learning tool for us. But more than just a learning tool, it created a bond for all of us. On weekends, we would have these incredible, healthy, competitive moments between the Greasers and the Socias, whether it was a barbecue and a football game, or a Friday night bowling alley meetup. There was this feeling, and Francis was part director, part psychologist, and part father. And we'd show up to the park to play football, and the Socias would show up in their matching track suits with their names on it. We didn't have anything. They did their leather-bound books for their scripts. We didn't have anything. They were on the 16th floor with beautiful views in the big hotel rooms, and we didn't have that. And it created a little animosity and a real healthy competition. And I don't know if you could get away with that today, the way things are run on sets. But back then, it bonded the Greasers and it bonded the Socias as well, right?
Yeah. And it bonded everybody, and it was orchestrated so well, right? Because also that audition process also brought us all so close together, and the last night of the auditions in New York, which by the way was my 17th birthday, that midnight, but we sat around a table with microphones in the middle, and there were two people for each role, and we all read through the entire script, and so he created the movie then as well, almost like a radio player, like an animatics, and then did all the rehearsal periods and things like that. And it was just, we had fun like young people do, but we also depended on each other, Tommy was always working, so I didn't get much of a chance to hang out with him. He was always working, right? The lucky ones with all the breaks, we got in a lot of trouble. Like, we had time for trouble. And it was, so we did things.
A lot of pranks.
Terrible things sometimes, like we had the upside down patrol. We'd get the keys to their hotel rooms and turn everything upside down. Everything upside down. I'm talking about everything.
From a penny to my bed.
Everything. And so we had a lot of fun, but ultimately when the chips were down, we really cared for each other. And you're working long hours, you see that stuff by the fountain, that's 35 degrees, something like that, and we're going through that process. Swiss mist blowing around in the air and stuff like that. You get really close, and that really the thing that you point out is true. You don't get that experience that much these days because movies are not made like that anymore. We were there for a month of rehearsal. You don't normally get that.
That's cut out of the budget now.
There's not enough time. Everybody's too busy to do it and things like that. We were more than happy to do it. because it brought us all together. And it was a good experience.
Let's take another question. Katie.
Hi. First of all, thank you both for doing this for everyone. We all love this film and we really appreciate it. But I did want to know, while filming, were there any scenes that just deeply resonated with you or were memorable?
Were there any scenes that we shot that resonated or were memorable? Okay, I got a story for you. A scene that didn't resonate and wasn't memorable was the Rumble. I had about 3 solid weeks of working with our stunt coordinator, Buddy Joe Hooker, working out my punches and my kicks, and Ponyboy went to town on this guy, right? Well, it was raining on night 1, and the second night, and the first night was just really the introduction, where the socials all pull up, and we're all kind of eyeing each other, and Paul tells Derry, I'll take you, and we get through that. The second night we show up, it wasn't raining, but they had to match it because we had 3 nights of filming. So the second night, we had fire engines there with firemen with hoses squirting everything down, and it was just a muddy soup. And the stunt man named Reed Rondell, the gentleman all dressed in white that throws the first punch and hits Ponyboy, slips in the mud and connects on my chin, and down I go. So I'm looking up, kind of going, oh, what just happened? And everybody's fighting and having the time of their life. Francis says, cut. And I get up, kind of rubbing my jaw. And I go over to Francis and said, Francis, we need to go again. He said, what happened? I said, well, yeah, the guy hit me right in my jaw and I fell down. I didn't get to throw any punches or kick anybody or anything. Scratches his cheek for a second. He says, well, that's what happens to Ponyboy in this Rumble.
It's like a half load through the frame.
The next thing you know, Matt Dillon's dragging me out of the mud hole, And that's how Francis worked. There's a lot of moments in this piece where he uses the natural moments. And that's what I learned the most from this movie. And that's what I draw from the most of this movie. I spent a lot of time with Ralph and Matt. And I'd have to say they were the 2 that I probably got closest to while working because I spent so much time with them. And they really took me in under their wing. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those guys. So every moment for me in the movie was important, was memorable. Some of them were more fun than others. But the lessons that I learned through the relationships that we formed is what I bring from it the most. Yeah, like this guy, I'm still toting him around, 40 some odd years later.
Even though I ate the bug.
Even though he ate the bug. Yeah, in the back.
Hi, our family is originally from Tulsa.
Awesome.
So we hold this story very close to our hearts. I was wondering if you guys would offer your honest opinions of your city when you were of Tulsa when you were there, and have you been back since?
Oh my God, I've been back so many times. First of all, the Outsiders House Museum is a phenomenal place. I go there twice a year. We work with a lot of local charities. Got to give my Andolini's pizza whenever I'm there. It's a great town.
It embraced us the whole.
The community is what I love the most about Tulsa. For example, the drive-in theater that we go to, where Diane Lane and Matt Dillon have their moment, is a place called the Outgrowth Twin, and that burned to the ground a few years back. And what happened? The community came together, raised their own money to rebuild it because they didn't want to lose it. And it's back now in full function. Same thing happened with the Outsiders House, the Curtis Brothers house. It was condemned and going to be torn down. When Danny Boy O'Connor, God bless him, from House of Pain, he was on tour and he wanted to go see this location where they shot the Outsiders, and he saw that it was going to be torn down. He contacted the people that owned it, and he bought it outright himself. And then the community came together when he said, we can't tear this house down. This will be a place where people will want to come. And he had this vision for a museum. So the community got together, bricklayers, electricians, plumbers, roofers, everybody donated their materials and their time, and they recreated and restructured that house from the ground up to match everything that we see on film. And now there are so many kids, families, friends, everybody loves to go and spend time there. Like I said, I go a couple of times a year myself, and it's a wonderful, wonderful place. And that's just the example of the community that Tulsa has. And so I love your town, and we're grateful for it, and we wouldn't have had the Outsiders if we didn't have it. Yeah. A couple more. I know everybody probably wants to go, but
Okay, so you were talking about like TikTok and social media platforms. If you look up the Outsiders on any social media platform, there's like thousands of fan-made stuff, like fan-made artworks, like even fan-made like books and like.
and edits and fan fiction and.
Yeah, exactly. Have you read any or seen any?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. I get asked that question that, do I watch fan edits or fan fiction on social media platforms? And I gotta tell you, the last thing I want to do is look at me on TikTok. So I don't really watch the edits, and even my own work. I really have no interest in watching the work that I do as much as I'd rather watch other actors that I can appreciate and enjoy. So that it sort of trickles down into the social media platform for me personally. But I will say this, because of the Outsiders fandom and the commitment from those kids who turn into young adults and who become mothers, and that's why we're here right now. So without that, we wouldn't be able to do what we do and enjoy this process. So I love it, but could you imagine if my answer was, oh my God, my favorite thing to do is watch me on TikTok? Yeah, I can't.
But I love the art and the things that they do. When we have these events and people bring art that they've, here's a picture I drew of Johnny, and it's amazing to me. It's amazing that and I love that it brings that out in people, that they love it so much on that level.
So many people come dressed as Johnny Cake. It's amazing. I can't tell you how many Converse sneakers I have signed in my life. It's mind-blowing. Yeah, right here.
Hey, there's a lot of great characters. I mean, it's a great movie. I gotta ask you, what is your favorite character, and you can't pick yourself, from that group, and why?
In this?
Yep.
Well, I gotta tell you, people say, oh, if you didn't play Ponyboy, what role would you like to have played? Of course, Dallas, right? But Matt was one of the coolest people I'd ever met. I mean, when you're hanging around the cast of The Outsiders, they're not too shabby looking, these guys, right? To this day, when I'm at the Outsiders House Museum, there's a towel that is framed up that Rob Lowe used when he got on the show, with 9 girls surrounding it, begging to touch it, right? So my point is, with Rob Lowe and Patrick Swayze and Cruz, this guy, Leif Garrett, when we all walked into a room, it was one thing. When Matt walked into a room, the fish stopped swimming. The women loved that guy. There was just something about him. He had the charisma, the confidence, like nobody I'd ever seen. And I just wanted to be that guy.
We got kicked out of Kane's ballroom because of Matt. All the girls wanted to meet him, and all the guys wanted to kill us. Had to leave it.
Yeah, over here. Are you stretching, or are you asking a question?
I'm just stretching.
Okay. No one was stretching. Yeah. Yeah. Hi.
Well, I come from a family of educators, and my older brother, he works at LA Unified in South Central, and I want you to know that he has a poster of The Outsiders there in his classroom, And what he does is that he has the students read the book, and then he'll show the film, and then he'll have them do a report. Okay, what are the differences, and who are your favorite characters? So I just want you to know that it's still so strong. I'm sure you know this, but
It's alive.
It's a wonderful. And
Yeah.
I used to be a caseworker, social worker, and I worked with troubled adolescents. And I remember watching the film during that time period, and it brought tears to my eyes because I'm like, even though I didn't have children, I could relate, and I could see those kids that I was working with them, and it's so true.
I hear that a lot. I hear a lot about, troubled youth that really connect with the book and the film, even to the point where it's turned their lives around to some degree. Many of these people have grown up and come up to me and said, thank God for my English lit teacher. The Outsiders turned my life around. I became a teacher because of it, or I started reading and became a writer. I hear that story constantly, and it's rare because there are a lot of amazing books out there, and there's a lot of amazing films out there, but a lot of times there's a departure between the two. But with The Outsiders, which is even now a giant hit on Broadway, and my point is, this thing just lived in perpetuity. The book was written over 50 years ago. We did this movie over 40 years ago, and now there's a smash Broadway musical. So there's just something about it that brings us all together and allows us to become better, even if it's just for 2 hours, and we think about it and we can appreciate it. And there's a lot of good in the world. Tell Dallas. Yeah, who was talking? Who? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, go.
Can you learn how to smoke? I get asked that all the time. Like, were those cigarettes real? I'm like, are there fake cigarettes?
I think you learned you hated smoking.
Yeah, well, I got a smoking story for you. So my father picks me up from school when I'm 13 years old. He says, we're going to go meet a guy named Steven Spielberg. I said, oh, okay, I didn't know who he was. And he says, but you have to learn how to smoke a cigarette. And he hands a pack of Marlboros to me with a book of matches. I'm like, okay. Fumbling with this pack of Marlboros and eventually turning green on my way to this audition. We walk into a room. It's a casting room. There's like 5 guys that all look like John Stamos with perfectly feathered black hair and blue eyes. I turned to my daddy and I'm like, let's go. I'm not gonna get this part. One of these guys is gonna get that part. He was just wait. One by one, they go in and out. And it's finally my turn, and I go in, and it's a vibe like this. I'm on a little bit of a stage with lights, and there's a chair. I could barely see anybody out there, and there's Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, the producers of Raiders of the Lost Ark, Steven Spielberg, the casting people, Mike Fenton, Marcy Learoff, and a couple of other suits I can't quite see. And Steven starts looking at my 13-year-old resume. He sees my father's a stuntman. He says, oh, your father does stunts. Yeah, he goes, so you probably ride the bike fairly well in this case. I said, yeah, that's no problem. He wanted somebody that could ride the bike. Little did I know my role in E.T. had been cast prior, and they let the boy go because he came from a Mormon family, and his mama wouldn't let him smoke the cigarette. So he says, here's a page of dialogue, let's read it. We start to read it a little bit. He goes, okay, good. How do you feel about smoking a cigarette? He says. I start fishing around, pull out a pack of rumpled Marlboros, stick a bent cigarette in my mouth, and start striking a match. He goes, okay, kid, you got the part. So, as much as I hate to tell the kids in here right now, smoking was pretty damn good to me. And I went on to The Outsiders and smoked in so many scenes. And as Darren said, I really did hate it. I never took it on. It was pretty disgusting. But it had a vibe that fit the time, because back then everybody smoked. You know, it was a different mindset. Everybody smoked cigarettes. I mean, you could be pregnant and people were smoking. You know, it's just the way it was back then. So it was an important part of the movie, and thank God my father taught me how to smoke. He's a good man. Yes. What was my favorite part with working with Francis? The fact that Francis would take time in the middle of the day when they would call lunch, and he'd bring us all together, and he'd cook a big pot of spaghetti or pasta for us, and we'd sit down and we would eat it, and he would tell us stories about Brando, Jimmy Caan, Duvall, the greats, and there was something so inspiring about listening to somebody that's, you know, he won multiple Academy Awards. He was a great writer, but more importantly to me, he was a friend. It was somebody that I could relate to. And I was too young to be impressed by trophies and titles. And same with working with Spielberg for me. I think what gave me the edge going into those auditions, and when we auditioned for The Outsiders, this goes to show you what I knew, there would be guys that would show up in their t-shirts and their Levi jackets, and then there was me walking in with my Elmo t-shirt on. I didn't know, I didn't care. I wasn't trying to impress anybody, and I think that was something that gave me a leg up, to be honest, because I didn't want anything from them. You know, I was 14, I didn't have a family and a mortgage. You know, it was a very different thing. I was just excited to be with the guys. And Francis really created an environment that felt more like home than it did work.
You took care of us.
We'll take a couple more questions and we'll get the hell out of here, all right? People say, no, we're gonna spend the night here. Yes, you.
Have you ever gotten feelings for Diane?
I still have feelings for Diane. Yeah, she was such a beautiful young girl. But she had this troll of a father handcuffed to her everywhere she went, which I would have done as well if I was working with like 7 hoods. Yeah, a beautiful person, a great talent, and such a supporter of The Outsiders. Here's my Diane Lane story. So the 25th anniversary of The Outsiders, Francis wants to do the cut that we just saw tonight, the extended version. He wants to fly us all up to Napa on a Tuesday morning and spend 2 days up there and talking about the movie and doing some commentary on the DVD. And the Monday before was the Oscars. Who was nominated for an Oscar that Monday? Diane Lane. Who was on a plane to Napa on Tuesday morning? Diane Lane. She came and hung out with us and gave her heart and soul to that commentary and shared her stories and supports The Outsiders with everything she's got. So that's why I love Diane Lane. Not because she's so hot. Just say it. Just say it doesn't hurt. Yes?
You mentioned the VHS. Has that been aired anywhere? And did anything change after you watched the VHS? Like anything drastic from watching that to actually filming the movie?
When you say VHS.
You said you recorded it on the VHS.
Oh, okay, the rehearsal stuff. So the question was, when we shot the movie on videotape and he cut it and showed it to us, did a lot change? To some degree, but in small increments. He could point out a few things that he liked or didn't like, habits that we may have had, or you know, some accent work, things like that. But what I already discussed, what came out of that was the the bonding experience between the actors, because by the time we took it to film, we already felt comfortable with each other. We knew each other. We could trust each other. We'd been through it. A lot of people ask me all the time, they say, is it difficult learning your lines? Most bad acting starts with just learning your lines. For me, my process as an actor begins with intention, tone, and behavior. So if I'm clear on the tone of what it is we're doing, and I'm aware of what my intention is, then I can start working on behavior. If those three elements are in place for me personally, the dialogue is easy. But what happens when you start with just learning your lines, when you get into it, a sort of droning, kind of boring sense will come through that, because you start to rely on those bad habits of just learning your lines. You're not really working from being present and in the moment and listening to the person you're working with and reacting to that. And that's where the good stuff comes from. So that gave us a platform to really trust each other. And then, of course, the relationships developed from there.
I know a lot of improvising, right? You did a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of improvising on that.
I mean, during the rehearsal.
The rehearsal time, yeah. I know I keep saying only 2 more questions, but nobody's really left yet. Are you guys okay? Okay, in the back up there.
Obviously, a lot of unique individuals in this movie. And you have a small scene with somebody, and I've often wondered, how in the hell did Tom Waits make it into this movie?
Yeah. Well, Tom Waits was in it as Buck, but so was William Smith. William Smith played the guy that shot Matt Dillon. He's a super famous actor. I mean, he was also in Red Dawn with us. So there was 4 of us from The Outsiders that ended up in Red Dawn. But Tom, Francis was a fan of Tom. Tom was a fan of Francis. And I think that was just sort of a favor. Francis said, why don't you come to Tulsa and hang out for a few days and play this little role?
And they were doing Rumblefish afterwards, right? So.
But was he in that? No.
Yeah, he was. He played the Mickey, the guy that ran the pharmacy. And
okay.
But Francis was a magnet for amazing personalities, right? I remember we were on set, and there would be this guy that would every once in a while during a break, he'd start handing out these kind of wild drums and things and stuff, and we'd all sit around, we'd do drum circles and stuff like that. And I only knew him as Mickey, and then a couple years later, I watched MTV and saw the Grateful Dead Shade of Grey, and there was Mickey.
Mickey Hart.
Mickey Hart. It was Mickey Hart, the drummer from the Grateful Dead. So he had a lot of people, Carly Simon was there in New York. There's, one thing about Francis, he was a magnet towards, creative people. And so you just think they were always there. But Waits was an amazing guy. Had some great people in. The other thing that I noticed when I watched it again is how many of the people that worked on the movie were in all the roles. There's so many people that Dan Suhart, the AD.
A lot of crew members.
Yeah, a lot of crew members. Like you said, Ronald Colby there at the end and stuff. So he was so good at creating a family atmosphere. And I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if you remember this part of the process, but we did the rehearsals. And then we all came in and we sat down at a big table, and he had all the heads of the departments at this big table, and there was an open chair at the end. He was at the other end. You came in, you sat down in this open chair. And then he went around the room, went around the table, and he said, okay, so, wardrobe, and here's this, and here's that. And kind of locked in all of the aspects of your character. And I remember he went to Richard Petty, and he said, I was in the chair, and he said,
the hair guy,
right? And he said, okay, so what are we going to do with Darren? And Richard Petty said,
nothing. You
flat
can't
top.
do anything with that.
Richard Perry said flat top. And my heart just went, no.
I wish I
was
could
sitting there trying to look cool, be like, okay, flat top, whatever. And Francis, and this is who he was, just stopped and said, no. Jimmy Kahn. And I was like, oh, yes.
That's awesome. I'd love to see you in a flat top.
Oh.
Hell yes. That's
I have to watch
awesome.
that over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. But Jimmy Kahn. Okay, Jimmy. All right, I swear, just one more. Who wants it? Okay, you standing up right there. Hi.
Was Essie Hinton on set during the filming or casting of The Outsiders?
Say that again. Essie Hinton?
Was she on the set?
during the filming and casting?
Well, she was the nurse in Matt Dillon's hospital room, right? But she was on the set. Essie Hinton was on the set every single day. And completely committed to this piece. It's funny because the credit for the screenplay goes to a woman named Kathleen Knudsen-Rowell, and that was a union issue. I think she had written a version of the script when The Outsiders had been optioned by another production company before it got to Francis. And when we made our film, Francis and Susie Hinton wrote every word that we uttered. So it was it was important for her. She was there every single day whenever we needed a new line written or if we didn't understand something. How many of you used to pronounce socias as socks? Right? Well, she would be there to fix that shit. And she called herself the Greaser Den mother. And, in fact, I just saw her and had lunch with her probably 2 months ago, and I speak to her all the time. She's going to be a part of this documentary that we're putting together, and she's a great lady. She's a great lady. Could you imagine, you write this thing when you're 16 years old, and she's well into her 70s now. I'm sure she's pretty sick of talking about sunsets and, whatnot, but she's fascinating. She's written many, many things, many screenplays. She loves filmmaking, and
She's feisty.
yes, she's a feisty lady, but super caring. And I'm so glad that she's still with us. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think we better pull the plug. I just want to thank you all for coming tonight. I want to thank Darren and Leif for showing up. I don't usually get support like that, but all of you, take care of each other, but more importantly, love yourselves, right? Because that's something we're not taught. We're taught to love our family, to love our kids, love our jobs, whatever, but we don't really work on loving ourselves. And it would just be wrong if I didn't tell all of you how much it meant to me. And from the OG Pony Boy, God bless and stay home. Thank y'all. Be safe going home.
There you go, baby.
Thank you, guys.
And remember, Thomas Howell, remember, stay gold.
Stay gold.